My phone buzzed at 5:40 in the morning, and for one confused second my body thought I had overslept for a shift I retired from years ago. Old habits do not let go easily. Then I saw the name lighting up the screen and remembered where I actually was. A widower in Savannah, retired, with a suitcase already standing by the closet door. A cruise sad paid for in full, booked with the quiet hope that money could stitch a family back together. The kitchen was still dark. The coffee maker clicked and hissed the way it always did. A photograph of my wife Margaret sat on the windowsill, her smile caught forever in a patch of sunlight, for years gone, and I still measured my mornings by the size of the silence she left behind. This cruise was supposed to be a reset, Alaska, cold air, big views, the kind of trip you talk about 4 years afterward. I told myself it was for the grandchildren. The truth was simpler than that. I missed my son. Derek was 38, married with 2 kids, and somehow farther from me now than he had ever been living under my roof. I wanted 1 week where we had no choice but to share space, share meals, share time. A week where conversations could not be dodged with a quick excuse and an early bedtime. I picked up the phone expecting a simple message about pickup times for the airport. Instead, I read a block of text that turned my stomach cold before I even finished it. Plans changed. Dad can't come on the cruise. Bree wants it to just be family. We'll send pictures, just family. 2 words that turned my own house into a waiting room. I read the message again, slower, the way you reread a clause in a contract you don't like. Some part of me hoped I had misunderstood. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Anger wanted to come out first. Hurt wanted to crawl in right behind it. I typed nothing. For 30 years I did compliance work for a regional bank, and it taught me exactly one thing that mattered. Panic makes you sloppy, and sloppy people get taken advantage of. So I slowed my breathing down. I took a screenshot of the text and emailed it to myself, a habit I never broke even in retirement. The moment stopped being just a wound. It became a record. My coffee sat there untouched. My suitcase sat packed by the door. I looked at my good shoes lined up next to it and felt something click into place inside my chest like a bolt sliding home. I called Derek. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring it connected, and for half a second I felt relief. Then I heard Bree's voice instead. "Walter," she said, sharp, clipped, like I was a wrong number she was tired of answering. I asked for my son. She sighed like I was the inconvenience. "Derek's packing," she said. "We're trying to get the kids settled. You got the text." I told her I got it. I told her I needed to hear it from him directly. There was noise on her end, a zipper, a thump, and underneath it, faintly, a man's voice. Derek was right there, listening, silent. Bree's tone dropped into something worse than anger, that careful, rehearsed calm people use when they want to sound reasonable while they cut you out completely. "This trip is about our family unit," she said. "We need space without you hovering. My parents are coming. They're the support system we need. Please respect our boundary." The word landed like a slap dressed up in a self-help book. I reminded her I had paid for the cruise, the flights, the upgrades, the excursions. I reminded her I was the children's grandfather and Derek's father. She laughed, small and cold. "Money isn't the point, Walter," she said. "You always make it the point. You ask too many questions. You make everything heavy." I stared at the refrigerator, where the grandkids' drawings hung under magnets, stick figures holding hands. 4 figures, not 5. A small detail. It stung anyway. I asked for Derek one more time. Bree snapped that they were leaving soon, that they had to meet an onboard coordinator, handle paperwork before the ship sailed, and that I should not come to the house. The kids didn't need a scene. Onboard coordinator, paperwork. Those words did not belong in a conversation about a family vacation. Paperwork meant signatures. Paperwork meant something already in motion that did not include me for a reason. I ended the call myself. The silence after the call felt heavier than the house had any right to be. I sat there listening to the refrigerator hum, wondering when exactly my son had decided that hiding behind a text message was an acceptable way to treat his father. My first instinct was to drive straight over and force him to look me in the eye. My second instinct was to fire back something sharp enough to hurt in return, but cruelty is a sloppy tool. It spreads, it stains the person holding it just as much as the person it lands on. I walked into my study and shut the door behind me. My old filing cabinet held a safe, and inside that safe was a slim folder Eric had never once asked about. Trust documents, property paperwork, beneficiary forms, the kind of foundation work people ignore right up until the day they desperately need it. Tucked behind it all was a plain envelope with my name written across the front in Margaret's handwriting. She'd written it the month before she died. I promised myself I would not open it unless I truly needed to. My fingers hovered over the seal. I put it back down. Not yet. I checked the time. A little past 6:30. Their flight was mid-morning, which meant I had hours, not days, to understand what was happening before they moved whatever pieces they were trying to move. I opened my laptop and did what I always did when something didn't sit right. I followed the money. Not the balances, the patterns. Two things jumped out immediately. A transfer to a payment handle ending in a name I recognize as Bree's maiden name Ashford, and a withdrawal from the household account I funded, labeled simply consultation fee, paid to a law firm I had never heard of. Small leaks, bad timing, quiet confidence. The law firm's name stuck with me: elder planning, asset restructuring, mediation. Words dressed up to sound polite and expensive at the same time. After Margaret died, I had signed a stack of documents just to keep my affairs in order. A medical directive, a limited power of attorney that let Derek step in only if I landed in a hospital and couldn't speak for myself. My lawyer at the time called it standard, nothing to worry about, a seatbelt you hope you never need. Still, paper has a way of growing teeth when the wrong person gets hold of it. I searched my email and found the old attachment, my name in black ink, Derek listed as agent, limited authority, not broad, not permanent. But even a limited door can become an entry point if someone hires the right locksmith. Margaret used to say trust is a beautiful thing right up until it becomes someone's excuse. She'd watched her own brother turn charm into endless loans, watched her mother forgive him again and again until forgiveness became surrender. She never once suggested our son would do something like that. She would have hated the thought, but she would have hated my naivety even more. I closed the laptop and sat still, listening to the house. I could almost hear her voice telling me, keep your head, keep your dignity, and never let anyone rewrite your reality while you're busy admiring their smile. My throat went dry. They weren't just leaving me off a cruise. They were rearranging my entire life while they assumed grief had made me too distracted to notice. I ran cold water over my hands at the sink until the shaking settled. I wasn't ashamed of loving my son. I was ashamed of how long I'd confused that love with permission. I shoved the suitcase to the back of the closet. Then I packed a smaller bag, keys, wallet, charger, the folder, and Margaret's photo tucked into an inside pocket. Before I left, I grabbed a yellow legal pad and wrote 2 words across the top, just family, and underlined them once. If that was the rule they wanted, I intended to honor it completely, in a way they had not imagined. Outside, the morning air was already thick with heat. A neighbor waved like it was any other ordinary Tuesday. Betrayal rarely arrives with thunder. Usually it just arrives as a text before sunrise. I started my car, and in the glove compartment my fingers brushed against the spare house key I kept for dog sitting and emergencies. I hadn't touched it in months. Today it felt like permission, and like a warning. Halfway down the driveway, my phone buzzed again, another carefully worded message from Derek, asking me to be understanding, promising they'd call once they had service. I turned the phone face down and kept driving. Their neighborhood wasn't far, but every red light felt like another minute to replay his silence sitting behind Bree's voice. Onboard coordinator, paperwork, consultation fee, Ashford. The pieces didn't fit together cleanly, and that was exactly what made them dangerous. If I wasn't family anymore, then what exactly was I to them? I turned on to their street-trimmed lawns, matching mailboxes, the kind of neighborhood people buy specifically because it looks stable. I had helped with the down payment on that house. I had raised a glass to their future in that very kitchen while Margaret was still alive beside me. Now the place looked peaceful from the curb, curtains drawn, no movement, like nothing ugly could possibly live behind those walls. I knew better than to trust appearances. I parked and sat there a moment, hands on the wheel, letting the anger cool into something I could actually use. I walked up the driveway slow and deliberate. My finger hovered over the doorbell, and I understood that this was the last time I would come here asking politely to be treated with basic decency. After this, I would be something else entirely. I pressed the bell and listened to it chime inside. While I waited, I pictured the one piece of paper I suspected they'd been too careless to hide proof of whatever they were actually planning. The door opened just wide enough for Bree to stand in the gap like a bouncer, one hand braced on the frame, the other already gripping her phone as if she intended to record evidence against me. Her hair was pulled back tight, her eyes were sharp, expensive perfume rolled out past her, fighting against the smell of breakfast and suitcase dust. "Walter," she said, like my name was a problem she'd already been forced to solve once that morning. I looked past her shoulder. The foyer was crowded, not with 2 suitcases for a family of 4, but with garment bags, hard shell cases, and a stack of designer tote bags. A folded stroller leaned against the staircase like they were preparing for a move, not a week-long trip. "Where's Derek?" I asked. She didn't move. "He's busy. We're leaving." I kept my voice flat. I rang the bell. I came to hear it from him. Her nostrils flared, and for 1 second the mask slipped. "You already heard it," she snapped. "You got the text. This is exactly what I mean. You can't take a hint. You push and turn everything into a confrontation." I let that sit in the air between us. Behind her, I heard a laugh, a woman's laugh, too loud for that hour of the morning, the kind meant to fill a room on purpose. It wasn't Bree's laugh. It sounded older, practiced, pleased with itself. Bree caught me noticing and shifted her body to block the view further. "My parents are here," she said. "They're helping. We don't need this, like I was a leak in the roof." I stepped forward anyway, not aggressively, just calmly, the way a man walks into his own office. Bree put a hand out like she meant to stop me, then thought better of it because the last thing she wanted was to be seen shoving an old man off her porch. I crossed the threshold and the house hit me square in the chest. Not the walls or the paint, the memories. Margaret and I had helped them pick out those countertops. I had stood in this exact foyer holding my grandson when he was 3 months old, while Derek pretended he wasn't crying. Now the place felt like a stage set, arranged entirely for someone else's comfort. My comfort was no longer part of the plan. Derek appeared from the hallway, sweating through his polo shirt, hair uncombed, eyes darting everywhere but at me. He looked like a teenager caught sneaking out past curfew. "Dad," he said, trying to sound irritated instead of guilty. "Why are you here?" "Because I'm your father," I said. "And because you texted me like I was a plumber you needed to reschedule." His face tightened. Somewhere behind me, Bree made a warning sound in her throat. Derek glanced toward the living room, then back at me, and I saw it plainly in his eyes. He wanted me gone, but he didn't want to be the one to say it out loud. "We don't have time for this," he said. We're trying to get everyone out the door, everyone. That word cracked something open in my mind. I walked past him into the living room without asking permission. The conversation died the way a radio does when someone switches it off. Four pairs of eyes landed on me at once. Carol Ashford stood near the kitchen island holding a coffee mug, dressed like she was already on vacation, linen pants, a bright scarf, sunglasses pushed up into her hair. Her smile was wide and cold, the kind that compliments you right before it cuts you. Beside her stood Ray Ashford, Bree's stepfather, a big man with a neat beard and a flat, resentful stare, the kind of man who liked to lecture about discipline as long as he was never the one receiving it. On the couch, feet propped on the coffee table I had personally bought, sat Colton Ashford, Bree's younger brother, chewing gum with his mouth open, watching me like I was cheap entertainment. The room was full of luggage that had nothing to do with Derek and Bree, bags tagged Ashford, a garment bag draped over a chair, a brand new diaper bag. This wasn't a family trying to save a marriage. This was an invasion. Derek hurried in behind me, voice climbing. Dad, please, we were going to tell you. Tell me what? I said, turning slowly, taking inventory with my eyes, that I'm not invited on the cruise I paid for, or that I've been replaced by your wife's family. Bree swept forward, chin lifted. Nobody replaced you, Walter. Don't be dramatic. This trip is stressful enough already. Carol set her mug down with a careful little clink. Walter, she said, sugar-voiced, you need to understand Bree's under a lot of pressure. Derek too, they need support. This is about keeping the peace. Keeping the peace, I repeated, by cutting me out. Ray cleared his throat. We're just helping the kids. Family should support family. Family, that word again, and somehow it still didn't include me. Colton grinned. He's not wrong, man. Sometimes you gotta let the young people have their space. I stared at his shoes on my coffee table, at the gum in his mouth. My hands stayed still at my sides, but something old and hard was waking up inside me. I walked to the nearest suitcase and read the tag, Ashford, then another, Ashford, then another. My eyes slid to the hallway table, where a thick FedEx envelope sat half buried under boarding passes. A corner of paper stuck out, and without even trying, I read two words on it, appraisal appointment. My chest went tight, not with panic, but with recognition. People order appraisals when they intend to borrow against a house, when they intend to shift ownership, when they intend to set something in motion that can't easily be undone. I didn't touch the envelope, not yet. Touching it would turn this into a fight before I'd heard the lie first. Derek, I said, and made him look at me. Tell me why you sent that text. He swallowed hard, and the words came out like something rehearsed in a mirror. Dad, it's complicated. Bree and I have been under stress. We need this trip to reconnect. We need privacy. We need it to just be family so we can focus. Just family, I repeated, meaning her family, not yours. His eyes flicked to Bree, then dropped to the floor. It means the kids' dad and Bree's parents are helping out. It'll make things easier. Carol nodded, approving. Colton added, and me because I keep it fun. Bree snapped her fingers at him like he was a dog. Colton's here because he needed a change of scenery. He's been going through a rough time. A rough time, I could have laughed. I'd spent decades watching grown men call their own choices a rough time so someone else would pay for the consequences. I stepped closer to Derek until he had no choice but to meet my eyes. You didn't tell me this weeks ago, I said. You told me the morning we were leaving, by text, like you were canceling a dentist appointment. Why? His face went red, and something raw slipped out from underneath the rehearsed lines. Because you would have made it a big thing, he said. You would have argued, you would have upset Bree, you would have ruined it, the same word Bree had used, the same rhythm, like they were reading from the same script. I asked him plainly, when did you decide I wasn't family anymore? His mouth opened, no sound came out. That silence told me more than any answer could have. Loretta, no. Carol stepped forward, her voice sharpening. Walter, you're being unfair. You're older. You tire easily. This cruise is a lot, the excursions, the walking. It's better for everyone if you stay home and rest. Something hot flared behind my eyes. Better for everyone. Better for their plans. Better for whatever that envelope on the hallway table had to do with an appraisal. I kept my voice low and even. I'm not confused, Carol. I spent 30 years handling bank audits and fraud investigations. I can handle a cruise. I didn't argue further. I said my goodbyes, walked out, and drove 2 blocks away, parking in the shade to watch their driveway. Early warning indicators, we used to call it at the bank, a few numbers out of place, a smile that doesn't match the eyes. I waited until the shuttle pulled away, then went back inside with my spare key. What I found over the next hours changed everything. In Derek's office, a trash can held the shredded remains of a home equity disclosure, my name signed in a hand that wasn't mine, the strokes too heavy, too straight. A notary form sat half-filled, waiting for one more step to spring shut. On his laptop, an email thread from a hard money lender referenced collateral, my house, and a guarantor, me, with documents scheduled to be signed while the family was in port in Juneau. A shared folder held a scan of my old power of attorney beside a file simply labeled updated authority draft. In the kitchen, a travel checklist read, Juneau slot confirmed, Walter calm, Walter agrees, Walter signs. They weren't planning a vacation, they were staging a takeover, using grief and distance and a floating stage thousands of miles from anyone who could stop them. I called my old attorney, Robert Klein. Within hours we had revoked every prior power of attorney, drafted a signed and notarized statement of my capacity, and named my old friend Hank as my new medical proxy. We froze the lender's disbursement before a cent moved. We alerted the bank, which had I discovered a note on my file placed by Derek himself describing cognitive decline. We had it replaced with an order that no one but me could touch my accounts. And quietly, without announcement, we moved my remaining ownership stake in that house into an irrevocable trust, one that let me live wherever I chose, for as long as I chose, but gave Derek and Bree no claim to it whatsoever. Their occupancy became a revocable permission, nothing more. When Bree's family filed an emergency petition trying to have me declared unfit, a judge read through the evidence, the forged signature, the staged medical consultation, the lender packet routing money to Bree's family's company, and denied it with prejudice. She ordered the fraud referred to investigators and told Bree's father, in open court, to never contact my witnesses again. By the time the ship docked, Derek and Bree found their bank cards frozen, their suite access restricted, and a new locksmith's paperwork taped to a front door that no longer opened for their key. I didn't do any of it out of cruelty. I did it because somewhere between my wife's death and that 6 a.m. text message, I had let people mistake my love for permission. Not anymore. If you've ever been treated like an ATM by people who swear they love you, hear me clearly. Love does not require you to be exploited, and family is not a free pass to betray you without consequences. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't shouting, it's simply walking away with your dignity fully intact. Thanks so much for watching. If this story hit home, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it, and check out more stories just like this one here on the Revenge Hub.